Hello and welcome to Clark County Close-Up. I'm Jim Demon. Let's start first about the purpose of the Planning Commission. Ron, can you tell us about that?
The Planning Commission is an appointed commission appointed by the county commissioners. Our primary focus is to look at procedures and land use policy related. And what we do is we get different items that come in from staff, both in the form of policy procedures and ordinances, either new or revised. And we look at them, and at that point in time, we go ahead and we open that up to the public, create a public record, and make a recommendation based on the staff input, and we pass that forward to the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, so you're making recommendations and the commissioners then act upon those.
On an advisory basis.
Advisory basis. Okay, how many members are on the Planning Commission?
We have 7 appointed members. We have some real estate professionals, we have a civil engineer, we have a teacher, a land use lawyer, and myself. I'm in the aerospace industry.
Okay, so good mix. Now, and for people who watch CVTV, we cover these, but just to say, are the meetings open to the general public?
Yes, yes.
And when do they generally meet?
We meet the 2nd and 4th Thursday of the month generally. Our second Thursday is usually a work session, which is also open to the public. We don't take public testimony during the work session because it's an informational session with us doing a give and take discussion with staff and the staff presentations about what we would be hearing later on in a hearing format. Thursdays, the 4th Thursday of the month is usually the hearing itself. Sometimes there's a work session beforehand and then the hearing. But at the hearing, we open it up for public testimony, and we take the input of staff, the recommendations from staff, public input, public recommendations, and then we deliberate amongst ourselves, and we pass forward a recommendation from the Planning Commission to the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay. Oliver, let's jump to the Clark County Growth Management Comprehensive Plan. We've talked, it's been updated so long. First, what is the plan?
The comprehensive plan, if I may just give some historical perspective, the first comprehensive plan was adopted or approved in the early 1960s. People don't know that.
1960s.
1960s, yeah. But other than the title comprehensive plan, it has no resemblance in the way we think of comprehensive plan today. So the first growth management plan for Clark County was approved and adopted in 1994. That was the first comprehensive growth management plan for the county that responds to the Growth Management Act that was passed by the state legislature. And the plan in itself is a requirement by the state. The one that was passed in 1994 has been was updated in 2004 and also in 2007. The comprehensive plan contains, because it responds to the Growth Management Act, has 13 goals. Now the new one will have, now will have 14 goals, from land use, transportation element, economic development element, capital facilities plan element, and then optional element that looks at what are the policies and what are the goals and how are the communities or counties requiring to plan response to those goals and make sure that those fully planning under the state statute meets the requirements of the Growth Management Act. So in general, that's really what the comprehensive plan contains. In putting the plans together, we cooperate with the 7 cities that are in the county, and the county is then required to update the plan Now it is every 8 years.
Every 8 years, okay.
It's much shorter term. That was amended by the legislature recently. It used to be at least once every 10 years. And we are required by the Office of State Office of Financial Management. It is the same state agency that typically will put out estimate of county and cities population that you see April 1 of every year. So we are required by the state statute to use the Office of Financial Management population projections. And the agency provides their population estimate by low, medium, and high range. And the state statute requires county officials, in this case the County Board of Commissioners, to choose a number or a population target that are used for the plan update.
And that population target, you're looking for 20 years,
We're
25
using-
years?
Yeah, no, 20
years from,
yeah.
okay. So what is that rate?
The next plan update will be from 2015 to 2035.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, we looked at a series of assumptions such as household size, the number of housing units per acre. If we know the number of folks that are going to be moving into the county, the board had a policy of, okay, how many of those folks will be in the cities and unincorporated portion of the county, and how many of those folks will move into the rural area? So what is the urban-rural split? We looked at that. We also look at other several factors. We use all those assumptions to then determine the total acreage that will be necessary to accommodate that projected population growth in the next 20 years.
So you're looking at urban size, how much more land you need to add?
Yes.
For homes, businesses?
Yes.
Okay.
Not only for rooftops, but for jobs. In other words, commercial and industrial. So when people move here, can they live here, find job here? So all that is looked at when we determine sizing of the urban growth boundary, for example.
Okay, and I see that the commissioners approved 562,000.
They did approve 562,207 to be exact.
Okay.
In terms of what the total county population will be by 2035, and that's the middle of the road.
That's the middle of the road.
That's the middle of the road projection, or the mid-range that was provided by OFM.
Now, the last few years has we had a high population growth rate for several years. The last few years with the economy going down, how's the growth rate been?
Well, you know, in the last, I would say 2009 through 2013, the growth rate the county have grown below 1%.
Okay.
In the 2007 plan, the assumption was that we will grow by 2.2% in the first 6 years of the plan, and then after that we will be growing at 2%. Not to look backwards, no one predicted the downturn that occurred or the recession. So, but we haven't been growing we haven't made that 2% or 2.2%. So I think the county considered that and saying, because everyone expects that we're going to recover, and we're recovering slowly, to take a much more moderate growth rate looking ahead.
Okay. Now, I understand the population projection was one of the first steps in this plan update process. So can you tell us where we are currently with the plan and what are going to be some next steps in the update process? The board have made a decision on the population target. That is the key foundation. We have also developed, with the commissioner's approval, the public participation program that how the public will be involved and participate in the process. We are now having a conversation with the commissioners on the employment projection, because as I mentioned, when you're planning for rooftops, you also have to plan for the jobs associated with that. So we are having conversation not only with the county commissioners but with our city partners. What are the number of jobs that we have to plan for in the next 20 years? So that's the next steps. As soon as the commissioners makes a decision on the number of jobs target 20 years from now, we will use both the population decision that they've already made and the employment target 20 years from now, and then begin a conversation with the cities on allocation of that population and employment projections.
And just skipping around a little bit, but just to talk, so you talked about jobs and working with the cities. Do you also work with hospitals and in school districts, for example, as part of the plan? How many schools are we going to need and things like that? Is that part of it?
It is part of it. We coordinate with other service providers, including sewer and water districts and schools. And we must be as clear as we can to make sure that services will be available for the number of people we're anticipating to move into our area for the next 20 years. And the way that we coordinate with our service providers and city partners is through our capital facilities plan. Okay. The capital facilities plan goes into more details of the inventory, the need, and the expected growth. And in it also identifies how the cost of providing those services are going to be paid.
And so really you're talking sewers?
Sewer, water, schools, you name it.
Okay, all that, roads, everything.
Yeah, roads is all included
Capital
in our
improvement.
capital facilities plan. And like I said, the capital facilities plan goes more in details, saying, okay, if you're planning for this growth, how are we going to pay for it? And when are they expected to be completed, if you will? All the projects that are identified.
And when do you anticipate having the whole plan update completed by?
By June 30th, 2016. I hesitated because the legislature put us, Clark County and other counties, on a cycle to update in 2014. However, because of the recession and because of the slow growth and funding that wasn't there, this legislature moved the goalpost to 2016.
So roughly 2 years to go.
2 years from now, yes.
We
don't have the luxury to go to the end of the year, but we are supposed to complete that by June 30th of 2016.
Okay.
Yes.
So Ron, the Planning Commission is going to be taking a lot of these issues up and trying to figure out in kind of a crystal ball what the growth's going to be. Can you talk about what the Planning Commission will be doing over the next several months?
Yeah. Well, we're going to try and avoid using a crystal ball.
That's the way I would do it.
So I've gone through many of these comp plan reviews. I've been doing comp plan updates either on the public side, coming in and commenting, or being on the Planning Commission side since 1994.
Wow. How long have you been on the Planning Commission?
I joined Planning Commission, I think it's 1999.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when I see these, I understand that there's a certain cadence that has to go through to do this effectively. And as Oliver has spoken, some of it is in the idea of getting some of the ground rules laid out and creating some of the fundamentals that you're going to start working with as part of the assumptions. So when we talk about a population projection, and then we can start to talk about some of the other assumptions, such as the urban to rural split, which becomes policy then on how many people we're expecting to be on one side of the ledger or the other. Then we can really have the next discussion, which is the jobs to housing ratio, which the commissioners are taking up shortly. And that's another piece of the pie a piece of the puzzle that gets put into place. And once that's in place, now the Planning Commission starts to have some boundaries to work around. And so from that point, what we will do is we'll take the individual elements that the county staff will bring forward to us, and we'll start to review those elements. And what we will do is we'll hold work sessions on them, and then we'll hold hearings on them. We'll take public input will take stakeholder input from the cities, from the public entities such as sewer districts, school districts, the public sector, fire protection plays a big role. Many of these elements, if they're not funded correctly, you end up seeing them later in the form of levies to try and just fund the basic necessities. So what we're trying to do is really set that up right up front so everybody has a clear understanding about the resource requirements based on any changes that the plans would be presenting. So then we would go ahead and we would take that stakeholder input, note people's preferences, organizational preferences, and then we will pass forward element by element something that can be put into the book that will become the comp plan that will eventually be forwarded to the county commissioners.
So do the commissioners get it in one as a single plan, or do they take elements along the way, like you talked about the jobs? Do they consider those elements separately, or it's going to be all in one swoop?
I think we are beginning now to engage the Planning Commission upfront. One of the things that we want to do this time is to look at our plan document, which includes each of the elements of 14 elements or goals that I talked about: okay. Land use, housing, transportation, capital facilities plan. An optional element, we have an optional element dealing with like schools, economic development. These are individual chapters that makes the plan document, call it comprehensive. So we're beginning to rewrite and reorganize our current document. The goal there is to make it very simple, easier to use, and say it in a substantive way. What is it that we want to say? What is policy? What is strategy? How do we implement that? Make that very clear. So chapter by chapter or element by element, we are beginning to funnel that through the Planning Commission to get them gradually involved early in the process and reviewing that, not at the end of the road to start raising issues on some of the elements. So, and some of the Planning Commission and the chair will acknowledge are new to our Planning Commission and haven't gone through the plan update. So this is our effort to engage them. And not only the Planning Commission, as Ron indicated, the public as well. All this information is posted on the Planning Commission, what we're calling the Planning Commission grid. So you can, the public can go in there, see the documents. It's also on our website, which I will
why don't you go ahead? We're wrapping up here. What is it?
It is. If you go to www.wa.gov/planning, you get into our website. You can go to Growth Management 2016 Growth Management Plan Update. It will give you all the details and how you can get involved and what our timelines are. The Planning Commission has their own website or web page. Same www.clark.wa.gov. Go to Planning Commission, and there you will find their minutes, their audio, their hearings. Even they are televised on their hearings. People can watch that. All that information is in there, and they can participate. They can write us, and this is the time to get involved. So we are beginning to take the policy component to the Planning Commission, just the policies. We don't think that they will change significantly because there's other things that we are doing. There's other technical document that will be coming along, but we're beginning the process just to get them involved early. We'll be doing the same thing with the commissioners. One of the things that bind us together with the city partners is what is called the Countywide planning policies. That's where the county and the local jurisdictions agree on regional issues, how we're going to deal with those, like sizing of expansion of the boundary and what goes into that, for example, and economic development. So that is, while we are having that conversation with the Planning Commission, we're also sharing the same, having the same discussion with our city partners so that they are also going through their own process. Like I mentioned, it is the goal of our effort, and the growth management requires that cities and counties plan has to be integrated and be consistent going overall. So we're having that similar conversation with the cities.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So again, clark.wa.gov 397-2280/planning and a telephone number 397-2280 for more information.
Yeah,
Thank you.
397.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you very much for meeting with us, and good luck with this effort.
Oh,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. Thank you.